Right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Altwork podcast, where we explore radically new thinking about how we may design our lives, our leaders, and our enterprises in this new dynamic era. I am Saqib Rasool, and today I have a special guest with me. Dr. Feroz Eledath is a friend, a world-renowned coach, and veterinarian by training, and he has worked for over a decade in a major personal development company. Now he runs his own firm called Empowered Life, where he helps people make breakthroughs in important matters. And today we'll be talking about how to transform and produce trust in your relationships. So, Feroz, welcome to the Altwork podcast. It really is an honor and pleasure to have you with us today. Just right
Oh,
off bat, let's begin by listening to you a little bit. What can you say about relationships and what's really important there, please?
okay. First of all, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's just a pleasure being in a conversation with you in your podcast. So my gratitude. So the question was, what can I say about relationships? Okay, so that's a very broad question. But the
Like
one thing I do,
what's the important part and what's important there, and what have you been, maybe say a little bit about your own relationships and how have you come to experience relationships in your life, and I'd love to
sure,
hear a little bit.
yeah. Well, first of all, I think given we are a social animal, um, all our interactions are in relationship with someone, some community, some group of people, or even if you're born in a particular country, you have a relationship with that country. And most importantly, I think, Saqib, what I realized from my own insights and heartaches and breakthroughs and struggle
Hmm.
is in relationship, you always begin with your relationship with yourself. So from my own experiences that, so just to be uh, open and clear and honest, I've been in two romantic relationships. So one relationship has been there for about 23 years or so. And my first wife, she passed away. Uh, and out of that, I got three amazing relationship, three of my children.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now I'm in another relationship with my wife, Magda. So one of the things I can tell you, when our relationship reached about 18 years, 19 years, right? Then mostly it was on a steady mode, like I do my thing and she does her thing, and we have children to take care of, a lot of responsibility.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I got a project in London that I had to go for 5 years, back and forth travel. But one of the things that when my wife used to say, you know what, there's nothing in common. um, Maybe we should divorce. There was no major arguments, anything, right? And I would go immediately, no way, we should work on it. We went to therapy and we went to counseling and all of that. But the moment I left US for the project in London, UK, something amazing happened because I went out of the bubble. And from there, I just noticed, oh my God, what is this thing that I can't actually hear what she's saying?
Hmm.
She's not happy. She wants
Hmm.
to separate. And I begin to notice that I had it, and culturally, it's embarrassing to have divorce. But more importantly, my own relationship with myself, that
Hmm.
I couldn't bear that I failed at the relationship.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, all that happened some incidents that happened when I was 5 years old. So that's the whole point about my clinginess to the marriage. No, this is my life. I couldn't find
Hmm.
myself other than my identity called marriage. So
Hmm.
relationships are, it's a weird thing, is that it impacts everything, but mostly your relationship with yourself impacts everything.
Hmm. 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 Right, right. No, thank you for a heartfelt beginning of this conversation and sharing a little bit. And it sounds like that what you call clinginess to the relationship is your commitment to being in the relationship. Being in the relationship, it cannot be easy in any relationship. If it matters, if it's serious, if it's superficial, if it's functional, transactional, you get something out of it, then we might say that the profundity of relationship is absent. But in relationships, such as if you've worked for a boss for a long time, or you're inside an important project with a partner, or you have a life partner that you plan to live with for the rest of your life, it's an important relationship and things begin to really get real there. So thank you for going to the relationships. And I wonder, Feroz, in your experience, what is it? What is the most difficult thing about relationships? What is it about relationships that make them so difficult to manage, to deal with? And what is our blind spot that remains with us in the relationship that, in spite of, everyone, I've noticed that wants to have a good relationship, wants to do well and enjoy, but something seems to go wrong in many relationships, and I wonder, what are your thoughts about
Yeah, yeah. So just, I'm not pretending I have the answers, but I can definitely share from my own experience and having coached more than 30,000 people, some of the dynamics of a relationship. So one thing I know, relationships are not static. I think we get into that pitfall about that, oh, I am in a relationship, everything is going great, we love each other, or it's my first job and I'm doing great, and my boss says yes and why, I have no problem in answering and doing the job. So what about the honeymoon phase and everything? It's great. But whatever the reason that one came up with to be in a relationship, and when that reason goes away, you find yourself struggling. And that is one of the reason, is that fundamentally we don't nurture the relationship, we don't expand the relationship, we don't grow the relationship. So as long as you have relationship as a thing and it's static, you're in big trouble.
Hmm.
But if you are able to grow and adjust and pull and push and expand and authentic, real conversation with whoever you're having conversation, especially the difficult conversations, you know, those are the relationship that actually have strength and matters and last for a long time.
Hmm.
Again, just so you're clear, having a long-term relationship is not bad or good. Having no relationship is not bad and good. Being yourself with no partner is not bad and good. It's just different. That's all.
Sounds like a relationship are a lot of work, huh, Feroz? So my question is, for the sake of what we're putting this work in, yes, I got it. It's not a static thing. It's a dynamic thing, which make it sounds like it's a really difficult thing. You have to constantly look at it. So for the sake of what? It
Okay,
sounds like
well,
there's some kind of a role that what really matters in a relationship, and for the sake of what you're in a relationship, other than the personal commitment to making sure that I don't fail relationship. Or is that it? Is that the main driver? I wonder though, what's your reaction to that?
so relationships are hard because, as I said, it's an always dynamic phenomenon, relationship. So human beings' relationship to anything is that, oh, I have handled it. I can breathe now. No, it's an always growing dynamic. So relationships are hard, basically, at least from my perspective, okay, is one has to grow all the time. So I would say, without any doubt and question, in every relationship that I have, I had to grow myself. So here's what I mean. What I mean by grow. Mostly how it shows up for me is I have to let go of something. So in a romantic partner relationship, I have to constantly let go of my insecurities. So my insecurities are, oh my gosh, will this last? Will this last? Oh, she's pissed. Does that mean that she doesn't love me anymore? Oh, so the insecurities that I have about myself in the relationship has a huge impact of how the relationship goes. So
Hmm.
there are times that I actually think, I'm not going to die if this relationship doesn't work.
Hmm.
And when I am able to generate that freedom, I am able to give the space for my partner to grow in whatever shape or form she wants to grow.
Hmm.
And that's a huge, huge, huge positive dynamic in a relationship. But it always starts with me letting go of something.
Hmm. And what is it that you reckon that we have to let go of in the relationship for it to work?
Well, I don't know. I'll just take last week. So right now I'm in India. Last week I was in Poland with my wife, visiting her parents in Poland. Okay. So we were in a amazing second largest city of Poland called Krakow. Beautiful. So if I know this is very different off topic, but if you haven't gone to Poland, definitely visit Krakow. Okay. So there we were in an amazing city having dinner, beautiful, there's a live music going on, there's hustling and bustling, and there's a horse ride going on in the background. And I said as simple as, okay, we need to do certain things about the planning for the next day. And we were going for a trip, and I said, this. Okay. All of a sudden, I see her face change, right? And in my mind, I'm going, I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm justifying, right? So I
Hmm.
saw the reaction, and immediately I'm justifying. I'm planning, and and all of a sudden I asked, what's happening? So she was dealing with some incident that happened earlier that afternoon.
Hmm.
And I said something, and she experienced not being heard and listened. So I talked over her as if um, her say and her opinion didn't matter. Now
Hmm.
remember, we're in this amazing city and the dinner, and I'm going, what's going on? Right? So at that moment, I got very clear. It doesn't matter what my brain says. My brain says I'm right. I didn't do anything wrong.
Hmm.
And then as a coach, as someone who's trained, I said, okay, so I'm going to set that aside and actually be in her world, whether I agree with her or not. So I actually began to see, and then, the way that I apologized was that I said something that completely negated your say in the matter, how it should be. And that's demeaning. And I, in that moment, belittled you and disrespected you. And I apologize for that and how it made you feel, not only that moment, but hours after that. And I will train myself to be aware of it. That's my problem, my issue. And my commitment is to train myself in communicating in a way that doesn't negate what you have to say.
Hmm.
So I had to let go of what I thought was right in order to, and we had an amazing evening. So that's the long answer to your question.
No,
Why
it's
is it difficult?
right. I mean, it sounds like the most difficult thing to do in a relationship is to give up being right. And being right
Absolutely.
feels great. Being when you're right, you get a load of, I don't know, dopamine or serotonin or something from being right. So
Yes.
you win the battle, but you lose the war. And it sounds like what you did in that conversation, that you gave up being right and you began to listen. You began to
Yeah.
listen without having to fix the solution. So that's another big problem, huh? I don't know if it's only related to men. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's only related to men or men and women or all genders. Is the this whole problem solving mood, right? We are problem solvers. Like the relation, your missus says something or your partner says something to you, some kind of trouble, and we think that our job is to fix it. Mr. Fix It guy, and our
Yeah.
job is to fix it. And as we try to fix the game, it gets messier and messier. So it sounds to me that you gave up trying to fix the thing and trying to solve the problem, and you got
Yeah.
serious about listening, that you got serious about what's going on in her world. um, what stops us from
Well,
giving up being right? I'm just extending the.
so for a it is true there is some gender differences in how our brain operates.
I see.
Yeah, people have made lots of money. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, all kinds of books. So it is true biologically how our brain works. Okay. So in terms of our brain for men, it's what's the solution? Find the problem, move on. Okay. From the woman's perspective, their experience of life is not that logical. I am not saying women don't think logically. Of course they do. But there is much more different parts of the brain involved in it. There's the emotional part of the brain that is completely involved in it. And how that makes them feel is a critical aspect of how the barometer of how the relationship is going. And that is always checked as a barometer. Am I respected? So respect is a big thing for women. Can I trust? Trust is a big thing. Is a woman. So that is always going on. So it's not a simple thing. You're walking through the landmine. So part of being in a relationship to grow up and know that's how it is. And sometimes men think differently from women. And if you want to be in a relationship, then you better learn and navigate those landmines.
Mm-hmm. Trust and respect for women. What an interesting topic. I wonder what do men want in a relationship? I suppose if I'm in a relationship, I would also want trust and respect. But I'm curious though, how do you differentiate what do women want in a relationship and what do men want in a relationship?
How do you differentiate? Well, you have to listen. That's the hard part.
Hmm.
And part of my listening is that I've trained myself, and everyone can train yourself in that, is that I know if I look at you right now, my eyes and my senses and my brain is making stuff up.
Hmm.
I cannot control it. It just makes stuff up all the time, waking hours. It does that. So if I have the ability to know the judgment and the opinion that is being generated 24/7, and also includes self-criticism, my own judgment and opinion against myself and what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I suck at, all those stuff. But if you're able to observe, and one can observe and set that aside, you do find an amazing space in which you can make the connection. And that's the beginning of the listening.
Hmm.
And it's a very experiential thing. And you'll find your own navigation tool and your own formula, what works and what doesn't work. And what I can say about
Hmm.
responding to your question.
Yeah, I wonder though, you brought up this men and women difference of what we want in relationships. And I do wonder though, whether how much of that is nature, as you point to the brain structure, and how much of that is sort of, we can call it nurture or cultivation, as there are a number of studies recently showing the relationship between the language and
Yes.
the brain structure. We even see that English speaker's brain versus a Chinese speaker's brain, there are different regions of brain that are impacted by the language. And I wonder how much of that exists, like you said something earlier about that I've trained myself into thinking this and that. And what is going on between men and women right now. And maybe perhaps the same could be said about relationships in other genders, in same genders, and all various which ways people are having their expressions. But the majority of the relationships between men and women, there seem to be something devastating going on in today's era, where it's not at all clear about what men want and what women want. And I wonder how much of that has to do with what we want from our own lives versus what we want from the relationship. Do you have any reactions, comments to
Yeah.
this?
So whatever formula that you and I or any other experts in relationship come up with, it's still limited.
Hmm.
Okay. There's not enough research at this point in this world, at this point, 2024, the reality that gives us full access to how men operate, women operate. Maybe one day. Okay.
Hmm.
But right now, no. But I found a shortcut.
Hmm.
Okay. Hack.
Yeah, what is it?
Okay. Okay, good. So now I'm talking about relationship. It could be applied to long-term partner relationship. It even could apply to work relationships. Okay. I've helped both. So when two people come together, irrespective of the gender, they bring characteristics, each quality. Would you agree with that? Right? And it is
Yes.
from their own learned experience and learned background and whatever trauma that they had in the childhood, or even generational conversation about how relationships are altered, and they come with all those baggage together, right?
Hmm.
And these two individuals try to make things work with good intention, with full of love and commitment and support from the family. What I find is that an effective way to cut through a lot of crap is if these two individuals began creating their relationship, their partnership together in a new way, with each one of them equally contributing to it, not what brought them together. Okay. So for example, would be there's a process through which I do. I'm not going to go into detail, but the process is cleaning the slate.
Hmm.
So acknowledging each other for whatever it is, acknowledging what makes irritation, what each other does, blah, 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 all the stuff. And then you make a clean slate because each one has to say, they communicate everything that they wanted to communicate up to that moment. And this is the amazing, no matter how many people that I've coached in couples, whether they are a young couple, 1 year or less, or 40 plus years a couple, it doesn't matter. When this clean slate is present, Saqib, there is an unbelievable, profound
Hmm.
connectedness. You can't put word to it.
Hmm.
And in that moment of connectedness, that two beings, they come up with who they are as a couple. You could call that as a couple possibility. An example would be who we are as a couple is love and adventure. I'm just making this up. Love and adventure. Okay. That possibility, love and adventure that they co-created together from that space of nothing. It is their possibility, it's their North Star. So when there are arguments, when there are disagreements, each one of them practices to give up whatever they think is right and come in honor of what they created together. That becomes a sacred North Star that they always come to. And I've seen couples who have done that. Their couple flourish. Their joy goes deep and meaningful life together. They can have arguments, but the next moment they are restored to who they are as a couple because of that creation. So that's what I mean by hack.
Right. I mean, it's just very right on the process that you laid out of clean slate. It sounds like something you said, the giving up being right. I think what you're, I wonder, can we ever really have a clean slate in a relationship? We're always foreshadowed by what has already happened in the past. What's happened in the past, it lives in our nervous system, and we are. So it's but what you are referring to as a clean slate, it sounds like you have invented a way through which people in relationships can enter into vulnerable space, into a space where they don't look good, right? Looking good is like the number one thing that kills relationships. And so you are talking about a space in which people can enter into an area in which they're okay not to look good and okay to not feel good. The looking good and feeling good, because initially owning up a mistake or willing to listen to an opinion different from yours, it doesn't feel very good. It feels like against violation of your knowing mind. We are all in this modern era, we're all know-it-alls, and we have these knowing minds. So when two knowing minds interact with each other, people are debating about what they know to be true, what they know to be true, but it's not really true what you know. It's a story in your head. It's an opinion. It's an assessment. And when people take that as to be truth and they debate with each other, being right is what lives in the neighborhood of relationship at that time. And your process, it seems like you begin to give up being right. You begin to suspend your assessments and your judgment, and you begin to listen and come together. It sounds so fantastic and easy and simple, isn't it? What is it that keeps people, maybe they haven't heard this podcast before, that's what kept people from giving up being right, huh? So I wonder though, what keeps people like so stuck, even though I noticed so many of the cases in my own, I've gone through 2 marriages and 2 divorces myself. So I never point one finger at someone when 3 are not pointing at me. I know something about being right, and being right definitely cost me relationships. And that is not to say, hey, there was no other fault or there wasn't a situation and circumstance. But when we are inside of the fight, those circumstances, those situations, things you think really matter, they seem like everything. But afterwards, you go like, my goodness, what really mattered there? So I wonder though, what keeps people from giving up being right? What is it that people are blind to in a relationship that they don't enter this vulnerable space? I'm curious, what have you learned about that?
Well, being vulnerable is not an easy thing for a human being, just so you know, because being vulnerable means you're open to possibility of people taking advantage and people doing all kinds of trust issues comes up. But there are 2 things that I would say, okay? Again, this is totally from my experience and my experience of coaching others. There's the neurological, biological aspect of it.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Then there is a creation aspect of it. So I'll go from my own life, both of them. Okay. So the creation life is something that you create, similar to what I said, is a couple possibility. That becomes you, and this is pure creation. There's no, that is more important than anything else. Okay, but you can't create that if you are not taking care of the first, the uh, brain psychology or the brain synaptic connections that is formed from the past by trauma. So in my own case, my trauma, very quickly, 5-year-old Saqib. Okay, so excited to go to my first kindergarten, pre-KG, whatever they call. Okay, the next day. So the evening, I went shopping, got the book bag and erasers and pencils, and boy, I didn't even sleep. The next day, I woke up, I was holding my mom's hand and dad's hand in the center. I walked into this white picket fence, walked in, and this colorful building. As soon as I walked in the door of Saqib, there was all kinds of toys on the right side of the room, including a giant slide over there.
And
And
that's what you
I
wanted, I'm
ran.
sure.
Yes,
I'm
I
sure right away
ran.
you knew that's my
Yes,
toy. I'm gonna have this
I
slide.
ran. Okay, I didn't
Uh-huh.
care about where my mom and dad was. I ran. I was playing and playing and playing and playing. And at one point, oh, where's my dad and mom? I turned around and they were gone. And in that moment, as that 5-year-old, it was all of a sudden an emotional trauma. Okay, they might have said goodbye, but who cares? I didn't even notice that, right? And it was like feeling of loneliness, profound loneliness, and heartbreak of some version of as a 5-year-old not loved. And for the next 3 hours, I went to the white picket fence and started crying. Hung on to that white picket fence and
Ah,
cried for
you
3 hours.
remember that. It's interesting that
Yes,
5-year-old
and
and you remember the
my
whole.
parents came and
Mm.
took me out. Right
Mm.
now, in that moment,
Mm.
my brain was very clear. This is very traumatic for this little guy. I want to make sure this guy doesn't experience it again. So the brain's function is survival. That's the only purpose of brain is survival. And so the brain created and helped me create all kinds of strategies like being friendly. It's very difficult to piss me off. I have a lot of patience. So I'm very friendly, very loving, and very resourceful. Okay. So, but this shows up in my relationships. So in my relationship with my, I have to stop myself for helping my partner, my spouse, because my natural inclination when she's sad, all I wanted to take away the sadness and help her.
Right.
Oh boy, that just
Yeah,
kills the
yeah,
relationship,
you're
puts that
asking for
big
it.
stake
Right.
right into that, right? So that's my automatic brain function. It lights up like a Christmas tree. Just go and help and solve the issue.
Mm. Mm.
But that is about me, not about her. So I had to deal with my loving and my thing is not sometimes genuine. It has a selfish reason to feel loved. So I had to train myself to let go of that part. Now, does it go away? Absolutely not. But now I have strategies. I go eat Indian food. That helps me. but I can hear and smell that coming 1 mile down the line. I can hear it. I can feel it. It's mostly like a choking experience in my neck area, my throat chakra. It just chokes, and I'm very difficult to communicate. So I look down, I look there, I close my eyes. So that's how I know, okay, the past is here right now. So I'm much more
Interesting.
easily able to deal with it, okay? And the second thing is that you have to create something much more at stakeness than whatever the trauma gave you. So for uh, Magda, my wife and I is, love and adventure. Adventures forever. That's what we create, adventures forever. And that's the nature of our couple, and been visiting all kinds of countries. That's part of our who we are. So that is more important than being right. So it's just a matter of practice and rewiring your brain. And there's lots of resources available in the world, and there's lots of techniques I teach my clients how to rewire your brain. And there you can train. Brain is an amazing organ. Once you know how the brain works, you can actually train your brain to help you to achieve your goals. So that's the two things. One, to deal with the trauma and the brain connections that is so tight, and over years make it loose and loose. And number two, you have to create something at stake in the relationship that is way bigger than being right. So those are two
Mhm.
things.
It's interesting talking about. I have two questions, two distinct
Yes,
things that are jumping at me. First, you're talking about organs involved in relationships, huh? And you seem
yes.
to point at brain versus the other organ that's often involved in relationship. And I'm talking about heart, okay? So don't misunderstand me here. You're so the brain as the brain theory of being the organ that's involved in a relationship. I wonder that may take us in a slightly different direction, but I'm very curious about being a doctor and having the medical background. What are you learning about the role of nervous system, the role of
Yeah,
gut, the role of the whole the way of being? Like, where do our habits live? Because it looks like something happened to you at the age of 5, and it created some kind of a habit of thinking, some kind of
yes.
a pattern of acting, not even thinking, conscious thinking, but sort of pattern of acting, that this happened, and there's an automatic way of being. There's an automatic behavior. And I wonder, other than a brain, is it all inside a brain? Is it all inside the nervous system? Is it all inside the narratives and the beliefs and the conversations we have with ourselves about ourselves? There's a whole this discourse. Every one of us turn into a bit of a philosopher about the self at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, where something happened, and we open a philosophical university inside of ourselves. We say, I know what that is. So I wonder how much of that is an unexamined belief, and how much of that is the reconfiguration of the neural pathways, and what is the role of brain involved in it. And I think maybe this is the point that takes us to the inquiry of the relationship between the language and what you might call
Yeah,
brain. And I think I'm expanding your metaphor of brain to not be limited to the organ that's inside the skull,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
to
yeah,
expand the brain to be the whole body phenomena with which we think, in which we are immersed. I wonder, what have you learned? So my question, as I'm clarifying my question as I'm thinking
yeah.
out loud,
Sure, sure.
the question is, how much of that is biological, living in your nervous system or brain system or other systems in the body, in the biological configuration, and how much of that is living in your idea space, in the space of your in the interpretive space, and could the interpretive space be separated from the biological space? It's a little bit off to the side, this conversation, but your
Yeah,
comments
yeah.
provoked me to think a little bit in this
Sure.
direction.
It's a great question, Saqib, because there's a lot of fascinating research going on, and they
Hmm.
are I love reading the latest research science. There's a lot of research in terms of the function of the heart. It's not just pumping blood
Hmm.
in the, they are finding there are actual signals sent from the heart to the brain.
Oh my goodness.
So the heart dictates. when they say heart is broken, there's really some science to it, right?
Right. What the
And
poets have known for hundreds, thousands of
yes,
years, scientists are figuring out
yes,
now. So,
yeah. And the nervous system is also, I mean, if you just practice this is amazing. First, when I heard, it was like a more like a woo-woo, but then when I practice in my own life and I then practice with my clients, it began to make sense. And there's a whole new world. Even before so if you're walking down the street, even before your brain says, uh-oh, be careful, not a good neighborhood, your nervous system is communicating to you. Your body is communicating to you. But you have to be in tune with your body. And it's very easy. It's not difficult. Just notice what's happening within your body and how's your muscle, is it relaxed, is it tightened, how your body works, where your arm is. It tells you the danger before even your brain brings up a thought. Okay. And many of the conversation, the language, I am not enough. Okay. In language, when we create, or I am not loved, or people don't listen to me, or I'm abandoned, those conversation over time manifest in different aspects of your body. Okay. And it's really fascinating research coming out. So I'm just thrilled. So for example, one of the scientifically proven conversation is that conversation from family to family, generation to generational conversation, one conversation can be transferred over 14 different generations. That's how
wow.
powerful the
Mm,
language is that impacts generations. And so many of my clients, especially African American clients who are in the management and executive position, and they are really progressing well within the organization, I give them a very simple practice. It's not complicated. No one know. As soon as you enter a meeting, let's say it's a big meeting, board meeting, whatever, as soon as you enter, just face straight and see what's there. Just observe what's there. Then turn left, observe what's there. Turn right, observe what's there. Turn on the floor, observe what's there. Turn in the and turn around the back and observe. By doing that, you're informing your body that you're safe.
mm,
And that's a different meeting than from there onwards. If you are not aware of the conversation and the body inhibits or manifests, then you are controlled by those conversations.
mm.
And it makes a huge difference for people. So yes, conversation exists in language. Not only that, as a 5-year-old, when I said, uh-oh, something's, I'm not loved, or whatever that I made up, I said, it exists as a language and changed my behavior, but it also manifests in our body and our heart. It's just beginning to find out. And there's a nervous system called second brain.
Mm, mm,
It's been discovered sometimes and more research. It's a nervous system from the base of your skull to internal organs. Now, why is it called second brain? Because it acts independent of your brain, cerebral. It acts independent of your spinal cord.
mm,
And that, when you activate that, you can just close your eyes and do 5 inhale and exhale, a simple meditation technique, just 5 inhale, exhale, and then observe your thoughts, what's going on, observe your feelings, emotions, observe body sensation. Don't do anything, you just get present. And in that small exercise, Saqib, your body's relaxed and majority of serotonin and dopamine is actually created within your body, not in your brain, by this enteric nervous system, second
mm,
brain.
mm, mm, mm.
And it opens the part of your body, brain about creativity, joy, fulfillment.
Mm.
So anyone, if you're training someone, let's say you're training, I know you train courses, right? If you're training other people and you don't do anything and you teach your courses, people will remember that in the short-term memory. So if you have 10 people, this research is done, 10 people, 2 of them will remember after 1 hour.
Mm.
And after 1 week, only 1%. But if you just take a few minutes and say, okay, let's do some breathing. 5, inhale, exhale. Inhale through your nose, hold your breath for 2 seconds, exhale through your mouth. Close your eyes if you want to, and you do this 5 times, and just relax, and whatever that is you're stressed about, put that aside and listen to this newly. When then you train them, it's the same training. The understanding goes to the long-term memory. And you now have the possibility of behavioral change. So it's just fascinating research coming out of what you just provoked.
No, interesting. Thank you
Yes.
for indulging me in this conversation, a little bit off to the side, but very related to relationships. And I think the techniques that you're mentioning of producing the interpretation of physical safety that leads to perhaps having a more pleasant mood in the conversation that then
Yeah.
impacts all the relationships that you have. It sounds like that this could be taken up by any minority or even anyone for whatever reason that they have not felt safe or maybe have had a traumatic experience. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
minority, even anyone who has had a traumatic experience, which Feroz is quite shocking that how many of us in living in the world today have had traumatic experiences.
Absolutely.
This could be
Absolutely.
helpful. So
And there was a worldwide traumatic experience of COVID.
yes, yes.
So that has a huge impact on people. It's unbelievable. Whether you notice or not, it has a lots of different impact on people.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for, and I think, what's interesting that I don't recall the exact text, but I read in I think it might have been the book called The Brain That Heals Itself. That human biology, the brain, the
Yeah.
nervous system, it's designed for pattern matching. We're always looking for matching something. So this desire to be a problem solver, this desire to be a solution engineer in the relationship, the way I see it, that it comes from some kind of a natural biological habit we have of pattern matching, that we are looking at a problem and we think that we know something about it and we start matching it. And the
Yeah.
possibility in a relationship may come from shutting down the pattern matching part or putting it on pause. And what you
Yeah.
call clean slate is seeing if there is a new possibility that doesn't exist before. And for that, putting your biology in the shape so you can actually have a possibility. Otherwise, when you're not paying attention, your biology is acting what it has always acted like. And it's going to
Yeah.
continue to
Yeah.
create the same mess it's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
created.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a wonderful point, Saqib. So I wouldn't say to shut down, because the skills that you have, whether you're engineering or any other profession, it's amazing and beautiful and works, and you're compensated and paid for that at work.
Hmm.
Those are very important skills. But what I communicate, I think is very powerful, is that for people to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. So you're in control of that switch. As soon as you walk into your home, turn it off.
Hmm.
As soon as you step into your office, turn it on.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have to have a control over when you can use it, so that's awareness and mindfulness comes into play. And if when you're able to do that, recently I have a very executive, high executive client of mine, and he's brilliant and he's great at work and everything. And he was saying he has difficulty connecting with his wife, and wife seems that there's getting distance. So I just asked him, what do you do when you get home? So he gave me his routine, and I found out, they have different sleeping times. It's okay. Couples have different sleeping times. So I asked him, when is his wife's sleeping time? About 9:30. Okay. At that time, turn off your laptop. Turn off your laptop, turn off your executive uh, persona. I want you to go and just lay down next to her. You may not know what to do. You may not know where to keep your arms. That's all fine. Just lay down for at least for 20 minutes or until she goes to sleep. He started doing it. And
He
all
started
of a
going to
sudden,
sleep together at the same time,
no,
Ashish.
no, he just
That didn't
stayed
happen.
there. What happened was that she began to talk. That was their connecting time for them. And he began to rediscover who his wife is, her new concerns, her new worries, what she's passionate about. Now, that guy loves shutting off his laptop at night and going down and laying down with his wife.
Right. I think
It's
it
a
might
whole
be
different.
what a great what a great practical advice is to turn off the laptop. It's easier to locate the on-off switch on the laptop.
Yes.
I am yet to locate the on-off switch on the problem solver. Right? There is no on-off switch on the problem solver. But maybe that's another episode of the podcast we can help you locate. We can
Yes.
investigate how to locate that on-off switch for the problem solver and turn on the switch for the listener, as the possibility of something new does not exist in the space of problem solutions. The possibility of
Yeah.
something new exists in the space of listening to what you have never been willing to listen to. And you
Yes.
put your client in a position in which he now begin to listen to what he was not, his biology, his problem solving biology was not
Yeah.
designed to do. So
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you really want to be adventurous and bold, Saqib, you can invite someone, one of the audience, someone who has a particular issue, and we can go live podcast and do live coaching and transform that person's life. But anyway,
okay, or
that's
maybe
just
transform our lives. Maybe we will learn something ourselves that will transform our lives. So I want to ask you. We're coming to the at the top of the hour. I want
yes,
to ask you a kind of uh, a strange question, but I wonder. You've spent a number of years in your life as a veterinarian, and you must have had a some experience watching animal relationships. What can you say, what you have observed about relationships in especially in mammals, perhaps, or maybe other
yeah.
animals, and the relationships between human beings? In what way they are similar and in what way they are distinct?
Well, that's a wonderful question. Let me think. Let me think. So I can tell you in what, and similar is probably people all surviving. Okay, that's the part. You want to eat, poop, and procreate. That's it. Okay, in similarity. But what is distinct is that I've seen this in dogs, I've seen this in goats and cows and even elephants. When animals show their kinship, or in human word love, let's just say, I'm not sure if animals will say love, but affinity, okay, and love. Most of the things are unconditional. So their expression of love, oh, if you don't feed me, I won't express that love. If you don't give me the bone today, the dog is not going to say no. Every time he sees you, he or she wags the tail and jumps at you. And there's the expression of love that you feel. It's not conditional.
Hmm.
Human beings, very few people, most of us expresses love for something quick, pro quo.
Hmm.
If I give you this, I need this, or I expect this. And I think that's what really makes distinct, at least to answer your
Hmm.
question.
Yeah, thank you. I think that you went in an interesting direction that provokes me. You said something about the word of love or something. It's interesting that human relationships are invented in words. Animal
Yeah.
relationships are invented by their biological instinct or whatever words that are. So
Mm-hmm.
the possibility in animal relationship is somewhat limited. What has always been, what always will be, and if it changes, the change has to do with some kind of a natural environment changing or some devastation or new enemy species is moved in or so on and so forth. But human relationship seem to have a broad range of possibility because the relationship is not invented in biology only. The relationship is invented in with words in
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
So thank you for going in that direction. We're not going to have time today to explore this, but that's another interesting topic that should be
Yes.
explored in detail about what is the narrative, what is the conversation that
Yes.
both people bring to the relationship, and what conversation they get inside of in when they are in the relationship. So another
Absolutely. Yeah.
question to
I,
let
I
me
I do have one question for you.
yeah,
Is
please.
that
Oh,
okay?
well, I was going to ask okay, very good.
Quick question.
Please, please.
So, Saqib, what is that you like about yourself?
What is it that I like about myself? That is an interesting question. um I think I like a lot of things about myself.
Yeah.
I like it that I like human beings. I think the thing that
Yes.
I like most about myself
Yes.
that I am fascinated by what human being is and what human
Yes.
being can do. And I like
Yeah.
it that I'm fascinated by it because it gives me a lot of joy
Yes.
and a lot of space to move. Um,
Yes.
I don't know with which perspective you ask, but many other things it's
Yeah.
in, but
So,
what's most interesting though, Feroz, when you
yeah.
ask the question, what I like
Yeah.
about yourself, what I want
Yeah.
to answer is what I don't like about myself.
Yes. Yes. So, give me an example of one thing that you don't like about yourself.
I'm not very disciplined, I should sleep on
Okay. Very
time.
good. So, part of being in a relationship is to have, I think this is the biggest gift that each one of us can give ourselves,
Hmm.
is loving ourselves deeply in a very profound way. Loving all the good things that we are good at, and including somehow finding a space of whatever we think that we are not good at. And when you can hold the same space, the space of loving yourself that you're good at, and having the same space for things you're not good at, and you can hold that with love, I think that's the beginning of a profound relationship to yourself.
Hmm. Mhm. Thank you, Feroz. I'll reflect on that little more. Hold the space of the things you like and you don't like, and see what shows up in that space.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you.
Like,
Um, yeah, please, you had another comment?
now, all I'm saying is that I've known you for some time, and you have an extraordinary brain and extraordinary way of thinking and connecting people. And we need more people in our world for making that connection.
Hmm.
And it's not just connection, but you somehow provoke in a way that makes a difference for them in their professional life and personal life.
You froze at Feroz froze at
Okay.
you said provoke. When you said provoke, you
Okay.
froze there. So
So
say,
you so
say
you
that.
you actually bring out and provoke and evoke, bring out the best talents. You have that way of languaging yourself in conversation, brings up people's talents. That makes a huge difference for them in their professional and personal life.
Hmm, hmm.
And if you can find a way that is way more important than anything else that your brain tells you, whether you're not disciplined and blah, 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 that will be an amazing grace you can give yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Feroz. I will make sure that my family watches this last part of this conversation because it is less my brain that tells me I'm not very disciplined and more my family that and I have an amazing relationship with my family where they feel free to point out all the flaws I have on regular basis and I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Okay.
Feroz, before I complete this conversation, I wonder what question that you have about relationship that is an open question for you, that you're still investigating and thinking and puzzling over. I wonder if there is something like that that you hold in front of you about relationships.
Yeah. So one of the things that thank you for asking the question, is that how do I relate? I'm talking about myself. How do I relate to myself without grading myself in terms of how long I have relationship, how much money I've made, how many kids I have, how my kids are doing, how my parents think of me, how my other people think of me. If those were all erased, what would relationship mean for me? What kind of freedom will I have to be myself? So that's the open question I have.
Fantastic, fascinating. I will steal that question from you, and
Yes,
I will
of
I will
course.
reflect on that question for myself. So,
Yeah,
with that, thank you, Feroz, and with that, we conclude the episode
yeah,
16 of the Altwork podcast. Transform your relationships, produce trust in personal and professional relationships. Um, Thank you, Feroz, for sharing your expertise and insight. And don't
yes.
forget to tune in the next time in the same place, same time for more Altwork conversations. I am Saqib Rasool, and this has been the Altwork Podcast.